What's up, everyone? We are back with the Pat's Chat podcast, now presented by our iHeart Media. I already messed it up, so that's good.
Nailed it.
Mike, I think we both have new jobs since we last did the show. This will be fun for people who are still subscribed to the Pat's Chat podcast to be like, wow, they've come back. They've risen, and that's us right now. So, Mike, how are you doing?
It's a huge deal. I'm doing great. I work in radio now, Doug. So the dynamic of this podcast, I think, is going to change in that you are always the expert, Doug. Yeah, I'm sort of the oddball, zany radio. I play the slide whistle every morning. So I will rely on your expertise, and I'll just be here to offer my outside opinion. But maybe it'll help. I was thinking yesterday, it took me a while to come up with the Patriots wide receivers coach in my head. So that's where I'm at. I'm separating. There's players you guys tweet about, like the 77th player on the roster that I'm like, see, I don't know much about him. So I'm different now.
Tyler Hughes, the wide receivers coach, 77th man on the roster. Right now, I would say probably Caleb Jones. So there you go.
That's the big fella.
He is 6'9", 370 pounds. And we'll be talking about him for about 45 minutes here because he's the biggest NFL player I've ever seen. He's bigger, he's taller than Trent Brown. He's taller than Trent Brown. So about the same weight. It's fun to see him in the locker room though. I was in his way in the locker room yesterday and he had to be like, excuse me. And I turned around, I would be there'd be a normal person behind me. I was just looking squarely in the middle of his body. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
It's like when Nate Solder and Sebastian Vollmer used to walk around the locker room together, and it was like these twin towers.
Sneaky, enormous man. The height and weight, otherwise, like Richard Seymour, when you see him in person, was like, yes. What the hell, yeah. Man? Just a brick house. But anyways, that was in our notes to start talking about Caleb Jones, so we're off to a good start.
We do have a rundown today, though. You came up with a brilliant idea to do 4 quarters because there are 4 quarters in an NFL game.
And you're on a football field.
And I'm in the middle of Gillette Stadium, as you can see right now.
Thanks to Stacey James. Stacey got you the access there. That's pretty sick. That's is that the home sideline? No, probably the visiting sideline. Yeah, that's the visiting sideline because the logo faces the cameras, which are on the visiting sideline.
There we go. You know more about that than I do.
Should we do a mission statement like the Pat's Chat podcast to remind anyone that's new or old, like what this is all about?
Sure. I mean, we talk about the Patriots, I think. Is that what it is? No?
It's about us getting rich. So it's a matter of time before we're all wealthy. No, I think we started the podcast. Well, yeah, it was when you had been laid off from PFF and you were which was much deserved. Everyone was like, Doug is doing a bad job. Get rid of him.
And the company's doing so well since I left that clearly
it's thriving. You were holding them back. No, but we wanted to stay current. But I think it was ultimately, Doug, we met. I don't remember when we met. Probably when you started at Nesson.
Probably, yeah.
In the press box, we'd see each other for lunch, and then a couple Super Bowls. And I think we were like, I like that guy. We'd like to talk to him, but we're adults and we live far away, so this is the only way to do it. And lo and behold, we can record it and go out there in the world.
Where we live, Boston separates us, and you might as well be in a different country at that point.
It's I went to Metallica, as you know, a couple times, and driving to Gillette twice in a weekend was devastating for me personally. So it's just down that area is far, so we have to hang out on Zoom.
And hey, it's as fun as hanging out in person. So
same thing.
We're in good shape here. All right. So the first quarter, we're going to do, just to give you the rundown of the show, we want to give our initial impressions of the Jerod Mayo era. We're going to do some superlatives for the 2024 season, some preseason superlatives. We will talk about Patriots record and whether we believe that they will be better this year than last year. And in the fourth quarter, we will talk a little bit about the Patriots' upcoming game against the Bengals because, hey, real football starts on Sunday. Real football started on Thursday. More football tonight on Friday. I think we're taking Saturday off from real football. We're doing the
college football
Saturday, and then more real football on Sunday and Monday. So we are right back in it. We're starting the show at the perfect time.
You forgot to mention our guest before the first quarter is Matt Patricia. Thank you, Matt, for joining us. Matt, is he having trouble clicking in?
Yeah, I think he
might have put himself to sleep with some of his podcast appearances.
I watched the Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia show last night, and I thought that Bill Belichick did a great job.
But we're not a Matt Patricia podcast.
The initial impressions of the Jerod Mayo era. I'm interested to hear what your thought on this is from, I guess, as you were kind of saying from the start, a little bit more of an outside perspective. You're not in the building every day. You're not in the weeds. I think a lot of the times when we're here every day, it's like everything sort of starts to blend together and we have trouble collecting our thoughts. But what are your initial impressions, even dating back to, let's say, like January, February of the Jerod Mayo era, the new era here in New England?
So I guess heading in, I always believed in Jerod Mayo as a good leader, a good motivator, a good mind, a good coach. There's things you can't know until you know, like how he manages timeouts, challenges, fourth down decisions, etc. Whether it's a well-run operation, well, that much is yet to see. So I don't know. It feels like so much of the analysis of his press conferences and stuff is just so sports media, sort of soap opera-y. It's like, oh, you hear a lot, he's in over his head, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, yeah, maybe I think he's an uncomfortable liar, and that job requires a lot of truth tap dancing that maybe is new to him. Because I think when he was a coordinator, not a coordinator, he was very truthful, almost oddly so. He stuck out when he would talk openly about certain things, that now he's more guarded and you're more of a politician than anything. So I don't know. It hasn't bothered me in all those ways that a lot of sports radio callers have been bothered by. Some missteps, maybe like to burn some cash. There was some learning along the way, but you're there. What are your impressions sitting in those press conferences? They don't seem, they're different in tone, but in terms of substance, they don't seem that different than what we used to get.
No, and I think that today was actually a good example of maybe he is learning on the fly and like he is developing his ability to not lie, but just kind of guard information, because we were just talking about it on Monday. He was saying like, yeah, I'm going to be like transparent about injuries on Friday. And then we asked him about City So, Vidarian Lowe, and Antonio Gibson. He was like, yeah, we'll see how today goes and we'll know more after today. It was like, So, I mean, I think that, but he doesn't want to give away anything to the Bengals. They want to win this game. They want to have a competitive advantage of them not knowing who's going to play and who's not. So I think that ultimately, probably from a football perspective, is smart. At the same time, maybe in the future, for a guy like City So hasn't practiced in 2.5 weeks and hasn't practiced this week, like maybe in the future you could be like, yeah, he's probably not going to play, but I don't think he wants to go back on his word, which is something that people have brought up. But my main takeaway on the whole like Jerod Mayo press conference drama that everyone is losing their minds over, the Patriots had the foremost expert in dealing with the media for 24 years in Bill Belichick. Like literally no one probably in the history of the NFL was better about handling a press conference than Bill Belichick.
In terms of not giving anything away.
In terms of not giving anything away, not going back on his word, never dealing in hypotheticals. Like he never wanted to say something that he might have to change his mind about in the future, which from covering the team, yeah, that could be aggravating at times because he wanted any bit of information, but he never wanted you to be able to say like, all right, well, on January 13th, you said this, and on March 4th, you said this. So he was an expert on handling all of that stuff. Jerod Mayo was just not. He's more inexperienced. So this would be a far less big deal if the Patriots had 6 or 5 or 7 head coaches over the last 24 years, like half of the NFL teams in the league have. We would be used to this. We would be used to having a head coach who is not an expert in dealing with media. And right now, that's the situation. And he's going to learn. He's going to develop those skills. And to your point earlier, Patriots haven't played a game yet. Like, I don't think we can say that Jerod Mayo is in over his head or that he's a bad head coach or that he should be fired or all these like crazy things that I see on Twitter every time that I tweet a quote from him in a press conference. Like, let's literally just wait one game. Then you can have your takes on this. But we've seen preseason games. That's all that we've seen so far. And they were even less real preseason games than usual because the Patriots didn't play a single starter over the course of the preseason. So we just have no idea what to expect. I know that's might be kind of the boring answer on this, but it's genuinely how I feel.
Like, ultimately what happens on Sundays matters more than what happened from January to now.
Right.
For us, like obviously what happens on the field, but he is a coach that has believability in terms of players. Like, I feel like he's in tune with at least the defense. We'll see how it works offensively. I will say I lied. I said nothing bothers me. I get a little annoyed when he does the, hey, that's more than you used to get. hey, that's more than you used to get. It's like, I don't know. It's kind of an odd dynamic, but other than that, ultimately what happens on Sundays matters most. So we could sit here and analyze it till the cows come home. There was one, all right, you want to do a football thing? Is the Washington game before halftime?
Mm-hmm.
He sent out Joey Sly for a 63-yarder.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that was a preseason decision. I would have rather a Hail Mary or something than a Joey Sly 63-yarder.
I think they like just really at that point wanted Joey Sly to like win the job like, definitively. And if he had hit that 63-yarder or the 60-yarder at the end of the game, it would have been like, this is our guy, clearly. Yeah, I mean, he can hit a 63-yard field goal. I mean, he wound up winning the job anyway. But yeah, I would hope that that's not part of the plan in the future, because an opposing team will probably have a returner back there who could take you to the house for a touchdown.
And for whatever factor he plays in, I don't know who's more powerful in the personnel decision, like getting rid of a guy that you drafted last year, despite wasting a pick on it. I like that they have been able to just cut ties with, there's no being beholden to past picks. And that's easy to do when it's the other guy. Oh, this the guy left me with this, we're going to cut him. Right. But still, to have that mindset where you're not beholden to any past decisions, I think is helpful.
Absolutely. All right. I think that gives our initial impressions on the Jerod Mayo era. Do you have anything to say about the quarterback situation? We don't really have that in our notes. So
I'll tell you what, Doug. We went to the same concert in March. I forget which one it was. Probably Wonder Years, maybe.
Probably.
And it was right before free agency, and I was talking to you, and you're like, yeah, they're probably going to get Brissett. And we were just like, I was like, it's so boring. We're going to watch it. Like, as bad as the quarterback has been the past couple of years, that's a tough thing to sign up for. So I'm not a rah play Brissett guy, but I'm also not you have to play Drake May today. I'm of the mindset that this offensive line smells. Give it a few weeks to possibly figure out at least a lineup, because I'm sick of hearing we need to find the 5 best guys and roll with them, because guess what? You don't have 5 best guys. So relatively speaking, I want to see them find an offensive line, find roles, so that when Drake May goes in, hopefully before mid-October, it's a reasonably safe scenario. I don't think Sunday in the following week is going to be very safe for the quarterback, and it's better to have someone who's been there before.
Yeah, I'll give my full thoughts on, I guess, Jacoby Brissett as a quarterback a little bit later when we talk about expectations for the Patriots. But just as far as the decision goes, I agree with it. I think just as far as developing Drake May, Elliot Wolf said it to Andrew Callahan this week. Like, you don't want to be in a situation where you put Drake May out there, then you find out that he's not ready, then you have to pull him back, put Jacoby Brissett in there, and then at some point in the season, put Drake May back in there. Like, that's kind of the way that the Dolphins handled things with Tua Tagovailoa, and Jacoby Brissett was his backup at the time. And clearly, like, Tua still, things have worked out relatively okay for him, but I do think that there was some, I don't know, like doubt, indecision, whatever was causing that. I don't think it was what was best for Tua Tagovailoa at the time. I think that's probably what the Patriots want to avoid. And I think that this year, with expectations for the team, they can wait. They can afford to wait to put Drake May out there. I know it might not be the most exciting product for you, me, or the fans or anyone else, but I do think it's the smartest decision. Talk to like a dozen people around the NFL. I'd say like 11 out of 13 said, yes, this is what they should be doing. One person said that ultimately it doesn't really seem to make a difference one way or the other as far as development goes. Like, there's no actual clear pattern for what's best for a quarterback. And then the other person said, like, if you're going to play him at some point, just put him out there, which, I mean, that's one person's opinion. I just think that with the way that this team is constructed, this is the best way to do it.
I didn't know you were a baker. You just revealed yourself as a baker. You said you talked to a dozen people, and that 11 out of 13 said.
That is true. It was a baker's dozen.
So that's very cool. And there is an element, like, there was no plan for Justin Herbert to play as early as he did, but a terrible doctor stabbed Tyrod Taylor in the heart. I mean, in the lungs with the needle. So, like, things happen. I think if Drake May gets to play, hell yeah, I'll watch. But I have no issue with waiting a month or two if it gets into November. And plus, ultimately, if we were talking about Drake May potentially leading them to 10, 11 wins in a playoff berth, and Jacoby Brissett with the ceiling of 6 wins, the ceiling of both quarterbacks with this team, like, you could put peak Tom Brady on this team, and I think we'd still be feeling pretty doubtful about them getting past 8 wins. So I don't think it matters ultimately in the big picture. So you have that sort of, I don't want to call it a luxury, because the luxury is that you suck.
Yeah.
So you have time to wait where it's not going to kill like your outlook for the season.
No, absolutely not. Let's get into our second quarter here. We'll talk about superlatives. I'll let you answer these first because I don't want to double up on answers, and I think that I'll give you the easiest path to answering first and not having to come up with something. But what is your biggest area of concern this season for the Patriots? I think I know what your answer will be, but let's find out.
I think we can double up on this one because it's the offensive line, and it's Jim Harbaugh's quote earlier this offseason was magnificent, where he said the offensive line is the only position unit on the team that does not depend on any other unit for it to be good. And all other units depend on it in order for them to be good. And that's obviously true offensively. Quarterbacks, running backs, tight ends, receivers need an offensive line. But even defensively, he said defensive linemen come in and they're like, I don't need the O-line to be good. And Jim Harbaugh's like, hey, let me ask you this, 325-pound defensive lineman. Do you love when you get off the field and you're tired and then the offense goes out there and goes 3 and out and then you're back on the field? Because you're looking at the Patriots offense. They ran the fewest plays in the league last year. They had the shortest time of possession. All of that makes a very good – and the Patriots defense was good despite that. So I think to go into this year with this offensive line, you're looking at – it's going to be hard to evaluate quarterbacks. It's going to be hard to evaluate rookie receivers. It's going to be hard to evaluate Alex Van Pelt if that offensive line sucks, which you tell me. What are the chances that offensive line truly sucks?
Pretty strong. I mean, it's just the reality of the situation. Like Vidarian Lowe really struggled last year, and heading into the season in an ideal situation, Vidarian Lowe would have been the Patriots left tackle. It's not where you want to be. I think I can probably explain like how this happened. The Patriots don't want to commit themselves to big contracts of players that they don't believe in. It's the same thing that happened in 2023. It's one of the reasons why they're not signing all these guys that are out there. Like they're still trying to construct a team and they want to spend wisely. And there was just no player out there other than Michael Wenu that they wanted to sign to a big contract this offseason. So that's how you wind up with this. They took some chances on Chukwuma Okorafor. We'll see how that works out because he's probably going to be the starting left tackle to start the season. Took a chance on Caden Wallace. We'll see how that pans out in the future. But yeah, I mean, the offensive line is the biggest area of concern. The big thing here, like, remember I think it was after the Eagles preseason game, maybe it was after the first one, whatever it was. Jerod Mayo said, like, there's a big drop-off between the top offensive line and the backups. Heading into week 1 now, the Patriots are going to have at least 2 of those backups in their starting offensive line because Vidarian Lowe got hurt and because Sidney Sow got hurt. So you've got now either Nick Leverett or Michael Jordan playing left guard, and you've got Layden Robinson playing right guard. So yes, they're probably like the stronger elements of that backup offensive line, but that was a really transparent thing that Jerod Mayo said. It was very true. It was very accurate, but now you're in a situation where you have to actually be playing those guys. So yeah, it's not ideal. If I didn't want to double up, I would just say that the overall depth of the Patriots is concerning heading into the season.
Let me interrupt you because you guys, you love your 53-man roster projections and stuff. I don't know if you were doing them.
Yes.
I forget who I was talking to. They were having trouble getting to 53.
Yeah. You'd get to like 47 or 48 and be like, I'm good.
And you used I remember one year you wrote it and everyone got mad at you. Like you had like 70 guys that could have made a 53.
Right.
Like it's impossible to narrow down 45 to 66 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So there's been years where the depth has been that good. And
yes.
I think this would be the opposite.
This is the shallowest roster that they've had in training camp since I've been here. This was the hardest time to find 53 guys. And you have to be like, yeah, I mean, this guy's earned the spot, but like in the past, you'd be like, there's no way this guy's getting through waivers. You have to keep him on the team. Whereas this year, I mean, they claimed 4 guys, cut 4, and all 4 of them wound up back on the practice squad. So that tells you where things are at with this team. And yeah, I mean, defensive tackle, they are very shallow after Devon Godshaw. They've got Daniel Akwale, Tristan Hill on the practice squad, Jeremiah Farms. They claimed Eric Johnson. Like, that's a huge area of concern. If Devon Godshaw, if something happens to him, like teams are just going to be running straight through the Patriots defensive line.
Work that both ways. Tell me this. You've worked locally. You've done a national gig. You're a football guy. You know the NFL. Do you think there's another NFL team in this great country of ours that has just one man, employs one person and one person only who can snap the football to the quarterback. Do you think there are any other teams that employ fewer than two people that can do that?
No, that's a huge area of concern too, because as we saw throughout the preseason, throughout training camp, I don't really understand that. That's one thing where, like, I think a lot of things that the Patriots have done have been logical this year. Never finding that just like 29-year-old guy who's maybe a little bit past his prime. No one
like
wants
$3 million.
Like even less than that, like a little bit above veteran minimum. Like the guy's just kind of hanging out there as a free agent. Like just bring him in case something happens to David Andrews. Because I was talking to Nick Leverett yesterday, and I was like, the snaps haven't been that great throughout the summer. And he was like, yeah, I haven't played a lot of center throughout my life. And I was asking him like how it's been transferring from guard to center and now back to guard. And his analogy, which I didn't completely follow, but it was a great quote. He was like, imagine if you bought a Ford F-250, you were planning on, towing things with it. You bought it with all these like accessories to haul a bunch of cars. And then all of a sudden they said, all right, you got to take that Ford F-250 and you got to race cars on a racetrack. He's like, then you've got to like, get new tires, get new accessories, do all these different things. And like now try to figure out how you can get it as fast as possible. And then after you've done that, they say, actually, we do want you to use the truck to tow other, to haul and to tow. So then you have to kind of go back and get all new tires and everything. And that's what Nick Leverett's going through.
Who said that? I missed the beginning.
Nick Leverett.
He said that about, that's not good.
No, it's not. But
it's not great.
It's not great.
It's honest. I appreciate it. But that does not paint a nice picture for what's to come.
Just full transparency as well. Like in practices within the last week, I've seen him like shoot a snap over David Andrews' head during just like practice out there. So they have a guy on the practice squad who's an actual center. I think if something happened to David Andrews, they would have to bring that guy off the practice squad or figure out something else, because they tried Antonio Mafi. That didn't work. Nick Leverett's still struggling out there. One weird thing, Michael Jordan, I can't believe I've talked about Michael Jordan like 3 or 4 times now already on this podcast. He was actually a center in college. I don't know why they never had him do it. Rather than
maybe he's a grab the top of the ball guy for the shotgun snap, and they're not a grab the top guy. They're a laces team.
He's also, I think Michael Jordan's like 6'6", not just the actual NBA Michael Jordan, but also
out of UNC,
NFL Michael Jordan.
Shooting guard. I'm familiar with this game. Oh yeah. Sorry.
But maybe they just want like that smaller body type. Maybe they want that David Andrews, Antonio Mafi, Nick Leverett, like these like 6'2", 6'3" guys rather than a 6'6" guy. But still, I mean, I'd rather the guy who snapped the ball before in his life rather than someone who's kind of learning that on the fly.
Okay, I'm gonna grab the wheel and I'm gonna put it on you. You get to go first, mostly because I don't have one. Biggest area of confidence.
Biggest area of confidence. If I just have to look at a position group, linebacker. Like you've got a linebacker as your head coach. You've got 2 guys that you can depend on in Juwan Bentley and Jelani Tavai. And I'm simply kind of talking about middle linebacker here too, or like inside linebacker. Raekwon McMillan had a good spring, like Christian Nelson. They've got some good depth even on the practice squad. Like if you want to look at one position on this roster that you're like, you're pretty good there, I think it's inside linebacker. If you had to pick one, what would you say?
I'm just trying to digest what you just said. I think that says it all. That says it all. I would add another area of concern if I could.
Yes.
Because it's supposed to be the defense, right? Like this defense was good last year. And I mentioned it earlier, like the fact that the offense was that bad and the defense was still good speaks to how good that defense could be. But what we kept saying all offseason was you get Judon back, you get Gonzalez back, you'll be good. You don't have Judon. Gonzalez, maybe it's just preseason, maybe he didn't care, but he hasn't looked great. We'll see if he's just a regular season, then that's not really a concern. But the Barmore thing changes everything because he was poised to be their star, really. And to not have him probably for the foreseeable future and beyond, I don't know that I can hang my hat on the defense being as great as I thought they would be because of all those factors. Like Uche 2 years ago when Judon was Judon was an awesome piece. Uche last year when Judon was gone, no. So I feel like you're back in that spot where you don't have, and I don't think Judon's what? If we were to rank pass rushers in the NFL, 12th, 13th, 14th.
Yeah.
He's not an all-pro. He's not the best at his position, but he's excellent. And you lack that sort of high-level player who can make everyone else better, who can free things up for someone like Uche and all those great linebackers you mentioned. There's just a trickle-down effect that I think is going to hurt them. And instead of, if we're talking about this team winning games, they're going to have to be perfect on the margins, and they're going to have to win these games by very narrow, small margins. And I don't think this defense I think they're a little bit shorthanded to do that. So that is my area of confidence. I'm confident that the defense will be a little bit worse than last year, unfortunately.
I mean, it is kind of a similar structure that they had last year where like Matthew Judon was out for most of the season. Christian Gonzalez was out for most of the season, and they had Christian Barmore be their like defensive centerpiece. So now you've basically just swapped Christian Gonzalez for Christian Barmore. But to your point, yeah, Gonzalez didn't have the greatest summer. He also didn't have the greatest summer last year, though.
Yeah, that's why I didn't want to make too big a deal about it.
Right, and then it was great in the regular season. So that's sort of what I'm expecting, but I don't have full confidence that that's going to happen. Just while we're talking about the defense right now, a lot of eggs seem to be put in the Marcus Jones basket right now, and we just haven't seen a lot of Marcus Jones on defense where you can say like, yeah, that guy's obviously a starter. He's going to be your nickel cornerback. Like last year at the beginning of the season, everyone expected Marcus Jones to be the Patriots' nickel cornerback, and then Miles Bryant was being trotted out there as a starter.
Fans love Miles Bryant, too,
yes.
Especially on Twitter.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's even kind of an area of concern as cornerback. I think they do have good depth there, actually, with Alex Austin, Marco Wilson. If they needed to, they could put Jonathan Jones back in the slot. But I just feel like there's a lot of confidence right now internally about Marcus Jones, where I'm kind of sitting there being like, I haven't personally seen it yet.
You got real quick off the top. You've got Jamar Chase, then you've got DK Metcalf, then you've got Garrett Wilson, and then you've got Deebo Samuel / Brandon Ayuk. So it's like we'll find out. We'll find out quickly.
The other thing too is with Marcus Jones, he's 5'8". Like you can't get taller. And I believe the Bengals' third wide receiver is like 6'3". I can't pronounce his name. It's Andre Yosevich, something like that. But that's like any guy who's tall as a third wide receiver is going to be a difficult matchup for Marcus Jones because he is so short. What's the most confusing thing that the Patriots have done this offseason for you?
So to me, the offensive line was so significant, and they quickly moved on from Trent Brown. I think that was known middle of last year that they were going to need tackles. And I'm not saying had they gone with a tackle in the second round, they'd be golden.
Mm-hmm.
But receivers are so much easier to find now, and you can find them later. And tackles are still the most premium position. In between when they picked Polk and when they picked Wallace, I think 5 or 6 tackles went off the board.
Yeah.
To the point where you had to take a right tackle and say, no, he can play left. And obviously he's not on that level. We saw Kingsley, start at left tackle for the Chiefs last night. Not that he was great, but he played left tackle in an NFL game.
Week 1 starter.
Start to finish, did okay, allowed a couple pressures, maybe allowed a sack, but you could have had a guy that right now would solidify one spot. And look, if Polk ends up being superstar, then screw me, you're wrong. But I think they just decided, let's take receiver here. And they weren't built for that. And now if you end up with a top 5 pick next year and you get a nice franchise tackle, then so be it. But that would not be how I would run a franchise. Like, well, we'll suck next year, then we'll get the tackle. Like I ideally want to build a team. So that one to me was, I wouldn't even say confusing. I would say it was imprudent.
Yeah, they kind of took a cutesy approach to the tackle situation that you might have, like, it almost felt like a carryover from Bill Belichick at times, where it's like, all right, we're going to sign a right tackle and have him play left tackle. We're going to draft a right tackle, have him play left tackle. And in the past with like Dante Scarnecchia and Bill Belichick, those things just sometimes worked out. Whereas this year, it hasn't worked out. So I would say for me, the most confusing thing was just that they never bothered to find a backup center after Jake Andrews went down during training camp. We talked about it earlier. I just never understood why that happened. Snapping the ball is extremely important. You can't have balls rolling on the ground or flying over quarterbacks' heads in actual games. That would be a massive problem. So there's a lot being put on David Andrews' plate to stay healthy this season. What do you think is the smartest thing the Patriots have done?
I'd say not trading the number 3 pick. I like Drake May. I think it was a good pick. I'm not going to sit here and stake my flag that he'll be better than Jaden Daniels career-wise, but I kind of like him better. So I think we saw on Hard Knocks how much the Giants seem to want that, how much Brian Daboll was salivating when he met Drake May. I think there's potential there, and it was worth keeping and trying a quarterback and not being scared off by the Mac Jones situation and going in with Bailey Zappi and Jacoby Brissett. I think that was smart.
I think the smartest thing is that they are sitting Drake May to start the season, because I think that it could potentially be a disaster for his development if you did put him out there too early. I know, once again, Patriots fans want their Drake May. They're impatient. I totally understand it. It would be more exciting if Drake May was starting, but I do think that that is smart to have him sit. Who is going to be the Patriots' offensive player of the year this season?
So this probably won't be the answer, but once he comes back, if he comes back, I want it to be Kendrick Bourne. I think people forget how good of a year he was having. He had like 800 yards before he got hurt after 8 or 9 games. So it's a big if. Over 30, torn knee, perhaps not the same player, but I just think he has an element, and I love what Demario Douglas has been so far, but as sort of a outside speed, multifaceted receiver, I think when he comes back, and if he is healthy, he will add a dynamic that this offense will need.
I would love to say either David Andrews or Michael Wenu for Offensive Player of the Year, but I think that the offensive line overall will be such an issue that you can't really like single out players who have been good. So I would say Demario Douglas. The offense honestly just changed when he got back being healthy this summer. Like, the offense was really sputtering early on when he was in that red non-contact jersey, not ready to go. And then as soon as he got on the field, like, hey, this offense doesn't look that bad right now. So I think that he is a game changer. I think that the team thought that he was a game changer when he was playing last year. And I know internally there was some like, I don't know what's the right word here, but like they didn't love Demario Douglas getting benched for the fumbling. They thought
Doug,
that set the offense back.
You've covered way more training camp than I have, but I had never seen last year, the first day of pads, like when they first come out in training camp, he was a starter from day one. Yeah. He was treated like a starter.
As a 6th-round pick.
6th-round pick. And that kind of speaks to what I was saying, why you should have taken a tackle instead of receiver in the 2nd round, is because he came in 6th round out of Liberty. And by the time they put pads on, they were like, pop, pop, pop. He would just drop his shoulder and pop, the whole sideline, like groups of people. So he is well regarded. And I think you're right. That fumble set him back, like 4 weeks?
Yeah. It was, and then he got hurt. So and then also they were having him play in the Z position, which wasn't his strength. Like, I think he can be significantly better this season, just if he's kept on the field, stays healthy, and stays in that slot position.
His performance in Washington, though, was concerning because he just wouldn't go down and just kept trying to. It was like, little guy, you're going to get knocked out again. He
did say this summer that he kind of learned to live to fight for another day, and that he knows when to go down a little bit better. We'll see what happens when he's actually on the field.
We'll see.
But that is what he said. Who's your defensive player of the year?
Jabril Peppers. End of story.
Oh, I like that.
He's fun to watch. Old school player. Hits hard. Fun to watch.
He is fun to watch. I'm going to say Christian Gonzalez. I believe in Christian Gonzalez. And I think that when you were talking earlier about like replacing Matthew Judon versus Christian Gonzalez, like summer was an issue, whatever. We saw very similar things last summer with Keion White being like a superstar over the summer and then sort of disappeared during games, whereas Christian Gonzalez wasn't that active last summer and then looked like an all-pro early in games. So if you're talking about like, I don't know, more concern over pass rush versus coverage, I actually have a little bit more confidence that Christian Gonzalez is just going to bounce back and be a gamer. Whereas with Keion White, he's been great, but I'm still waiting to see it in an actual game that counts, because he really did not do a whole lot last actual season.
True.
And who is your rookie of the year?
I did enjoy watching Keion White just dominate backups though all summer. Like, he killed those guys. It was fun. Yeah. Now, rookie of the year, there's not many options.
There's not.
I mean, you have Poker May. Am I wrong? Am I missing an obvious choice? So like Baker, I don't know.
I don't know how you feel about Layden Robinson, potential starting right guard.
I don't feel great, Doug. So I'll go with Drake May, because if he gets in and plays, then he's got a better chance than the rest of the guys. But
I was hoping you were going to take Polk because I was going to say May also. I think that Drake May winds up playing enough to be in consideration for Rookie of the Year. I don't think it's going to be a long time until we see Drake May. I think that they were really impressed with what he did. Maybe I'm wrong, but that seems to be the way that things are headed.
All right, halftime. Time for Creed to come out and perform.
Halftime. We got Creed. We got Ozzy Osbourne. We got, I don't know who else.
We should do that when it's late in the season and it's not going too good. Like most random acts we've seen at Gillette Stadium. It's something like, I remember those Thursday night openers. There'd be like a halftime performance. And it's like, what is going on over there?
Was Flo Rida one of them once? I think maybe
he might have been pregame. Maybe halftime. There was a halftime on the far end, and it was like you couldn't even really hear it. It was like a band that would be like
Train or something.
Even not worse, but just as bad. Yeah, like Switchfoot is like in the opposite end zone. You're like, what the hell?
Has Godsmack ever done that? Has they
ever played
during a Patriots game?
Probably. I saw them open for Metallica in 2004, and they sounded outstanding. Best guitar tone I've ever heard at a large venue.
Wow. There we go. All right. Let's get into the third quarter. Here's the question. Will the Patriots be better in 2024 than they were in 2023? I'm going to start this off. My case for them being better, and the Patriots went 4-13 last year. Their win total over under this year is 4.5. I actually still expect the Patriots to go 4-13 this season. I would take the under on the 4.5, but that's mostly based on the schedule that the Patriots are playing. I do think the Patriots will be maybe a little bit better and certainly more watchable this season, if only because of the quarterback play. I know what everyone has to say about Jacoby Brissett. I know he's not the most exciting option. If you put him in a tier of starting quarterbacks, he would be in the bottom quarter. But he is not Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi from last year. I do not think that you could get worse than the quarterback play that the Patriots had last year with Bailey Zappi and Mac Jones. They tried their hardest, but it was comically bad at times where you would have 3 interceptions in the first quarter. You would have, that Colts game in Germany where Mac Jones throws the interception on the target to Mike Gesicki. You get Bailey Zappi in there, throws off his back foot after a fake spike directly to a Colts defender. Like these are just simple
I'm going to have
things.
to step in. It was 3 Colts defenders. There was
it was triple coverage. You're right. Yes, it was 3, and it landed directly in a Colts defender's arm. Like, those things they're not going to happen this year with Jacoby Brissett. Say what you will about Jacoby Brissett, but he is not going to have those catastrophic errors. And going through the games last year, like, how many games would have been decided? And like, how many games would the Patriots have won if the Patriots quarterback simply had not made the worst possible turnovers ever? Like probably 2, 3, 4, somewhere in there. Like even the game against the Cowboys, Mac Jones came out so bad that there was just absolutely no coming back from that game. I don't want to make this like a crap on Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi podcast, but they were bad last year. Jacoby Brissett might not be great, but I don't think he's going to be that bad. So just from quarterback play alone, and like quarterback play on a team probably determines like 20% of how good a team is going to be. Like I think it's that big. And obviously there's other factors in play here with the offensive line, but the Patriots offensive line was bad last year too. Their weapons, Patriots pass catchers were not great last year. So like those things haven't significantly changed. Quarterback play has. I don't know if it means more wins this season, but I do think the team will be more watchable. They'll be able to put up more points, and it'll look more like an actual NFL team.
See, I think it does bring more wins. And when the schedule came out, I was doing BST, and so we had to do our schedules. And I was just going through. I'm like, I ended up with 10 wins. All right, I screwed up. All right, and then I just did it on air, and then it became my thing. So I've pushed it, but I've been given permission to retract it with the absence of Judon and Barmore, who I think were significant players. But look, I don't think they're going to win 10 games, but I think they can win 6, maybe 7, and I'll tell you why. And it doesn't require that much optimism. I did my math here. You can see my numbers. So let's break it up into the first 4. You're going to go 1-3. I think you're going to beat Seattle. You're going to lose Cincinnati, Jets, Niners. You never know, but I think that's 1-3, which is not an optimistic look at a month of football. Then your next 5, Miami, Houston, Jacksonville in London, and then the Jets. So that's 4, actually, not 5. I think you can go 2-2 there. I think you can beat Jacksonville. I think maybe you split with the Jets. Maybe you steal one from like division games. Even when the Patriots were 14-2, they'd lose a division game to a crappy Miami team. So let's not rule that out. So let's say 2-2 in a 4-game stretch. Not that optimistic. So that's 3 wins at 8 weeks of the year. That means you got a whole half a season to win 2 more games. Now you have the 5-game stretch I mentioned. At Tennessee, they're not that good. At Chicago, they have Caleb Williams. They're still the Bears. You have the Rams at home. You're going to lose that. You have at Miami. You're going to lose that. And then you have the Colts at home. Colts are not that good. No. You could win in that 5-game stretch 2 of those. And that brings you to 5 on the year at your bye week. So we're already there. And then if you come out of the bye, you're at Arizona. Arizona's not very good. You have the Bills twice in 3 weeks. Again, the divisional aspect. You have the Chargers here in December, January. There's a chance there to win 2 more, which gets you to 7. And so, yes, that's like ideal.
It's optimistic, yeah.
But I just hate how everyone, when the schedule came out, was like, I don't know, 2 wins, 3 wins. I think they are bad, no doubt about it. They will not contend for a playoff spot, but I think 6 is where I'm going to stand on and feel decent about.
All right, yeah, I'm on the record as saying 4, but some of that also might be me just being like, I don't want to get disappointed again this year. Like, and ultimately, like how many games the Patriots win doesn't really matter that much to me. Like, it doesn't affect me. I'm covering the team. I'm not a fan of the team, but like last year I did have much higher hopes for the Patriots, and then they just let everyone down week after week after week. So I do want to come in with low expectations based on what I saw this summer. I think there are a lot of things that could go wrong. I think late in the season, if there are injuries, things could get extremely ugly. But I mean, it's kind of funny thinking back last year to everyone being like, AFC East, best division in the history of football. And now this year, there's none of those conversations. And I think the Bills are a little bit vulnerable. They lost a lot of players. Josh Allen lost his best 2 wide receivers. So I think that that's an issue. Chargers lost their best 2 wide receivers. I think that's going to be an issue for them as well. Wide receivers are pretty important in the NFL. I did think there was I was talking to Mike Pellegrino, Patriots cornerbacks coach, yesterday, and someone asked him like, oh, is this a good like litmus test going against the Bengals in week 1? He was like, listen, every single team in the NFL has good wide receivers. And like, I couldn't help but think like,
you sure about that?
Maybe not the team that you're employed by, but then there's also other teams. I'm like, the Bills don't really have a guy. The Chargers don't really have a guy. So it is a tough test wide receiver wise, but I think that for teams who, I don't know, there's some teams late in the season who could have trouble moving the ball just because they're pass catchers. But I'm still sticking with 4-13 for the Patriots. But final question here is, what does a successful season look like for the Patriots this year?
I think you have to have a functional operation, because I think back, we are not not a Matt Patricia podcast, but I think that was when the Patriots went from from 2020. You were in transition. It was COVID. You can almost forgive that. 2021, you made the playoffs, so you were still a viable NFL team. You were at first seed in the AFC at the start of December. You were still. It was 2022 when really they veered into dysfunction, and you couldn't get plays in. You had quarterbacks yelling at sidelines. You had people that shouldn't be running things, and things have just gone down. And then last year, I was shocked that Bill O'Brien didn't do a better job. We saw last week he can still coach football. So last year's offensive situation never got better. Mac Jones was maybe too far gone at that point. So to me, it's just being a functional, not embarrassing team is what you would want to be in this situation. You want an offensive coordinator who hasn't done this before. You want him to be good at it. Not great. He's not going to be Sean McVay. He's not going to revolutionize the game. You want the play calls to get in. You want the team to be lined up properly, which is going to be a sticking point, which is not necessarily their fault because Sean Hockley's a dork. And you're going to want just a flow. You're going to want, I think back to last year. Do you remember this, Doug? The Patriots played the Saints. Do you remember that?
I do. Yeah.
I barely do. I was there. I barely remember that. They punted 8 times. They attempted 1 field goal.
Yeah.
You can't have that in 2024 in the NFL. We watched last night the Ravens and Chiefs come out 6,000 miles an hour doing all sorts of – you're not going to be that.
No.
But be representative of an NFL team. Again, I'm with you. The wins don't matter. A high draft pick to get a tackle next year is probably what would be a best case end result. So just being functional and then having Drake May play and look like he's got something.
That's the big one for me. A successful season is Drake May looking promising this year, because the Patriots are going to have like $110 million in salary cap space next year. I know that sounds outlandish, but like from the carryover from this year plus everything they have next year, like they're going to have over 100 million, it seems, in salary cap room. And they need to be able to spend it on good players. And good players aren't going to want to come to the Patriots if they look dysfunctional, like you were saying. And they will want to come to the Patriots if it looks like they have a young quarterback who will be beneficial to a wide receiver or a tackle or whoever's career. Like, really, they need T. Higgins. They need that free agent wide receiver or a tradable wide receiver, someone who's going to want to play here. And if the Patriots aren't good, and if they go 3-14, and if they look like a disaster, and if they tank, if they never put Drake May in there, or if Drake May goes in and looks bad, no one's going to want to play with the Patriots. And for another year, they're not going to be able to spend money on good players. Maybe they'll have to overpay on bad players. Like, I don't want to call Calvin Ridley a bad player, but like Patriots almost overpaid for a player who might not be considered like a great player in Calvin Ridley. I think they might have dodged the bullet on that one.
Like Ayuk is like, okay, he's like a top 10 receiver.
Yes, Ayuk would have been like, that's who you want to overpay for.
Yes.
That's who you want to come to the Patriots. And clearly he did not want to come to the Patriots for maybe many reasons, but one of them is probably just the future of the team, not knowing what is going on with Drake May or Jerod Mayo or anyone else. So that is what a successful season looks like for the Patriots. Let's get into the fourth quarter here. We'll do this a little bit more briefly, just because like it's week one. It's more about the offseason than it really is about the opponent. But what happens against the Bengals on Sunday? What do you think? What do you think this game looks like? It's in Cincinnati. It's at 1:00. I'll be there. I don't really know what to expect from the Bengals, but what do you expect? What do you expect from the Patriots? What do you expect from the Bengals?
You know, not expecting a lot of good things for the Patriots. And not to say, I mean, the Bengals have had trouble in week one in recent years, which I don't think matters. I really think the fact that Jamar Chase is playing, if he wasn't playing, we could maybe get a little bit dancy with this, but I don't know. I think that the Patriots defense will be okay, but they're not going to pitch a shutout. I'm thinking it's 14-3 at halftime. It maybe ends like 24-7. A nothing loss, one team better than the other. But that being said, lightning could strike, a tornado could roll through, which happened in Cincinnati once. They beat the Patriots in the fourth quarter. A storm prevented Tom Brady's comeback. So
it's true, yeah.
Perhaps. I haven't checked the weather. That's about the best I can say for the Patriots on Sunday. How about you, Doug?
Last time I checked the weather, it's going to be like 67. I think a little bit like sunny. I think it's going to be perfect football weather. Haven't checked it recently though, so I can't give you the meteorology report. Yeah, I think like 24-17, 27-17, somewhere around there. I do think the Patriots will be able to move the ball a little bit. I'm just
17.
I want to have more belief in the Patriots offense.
Okay.
I want to believe that they're going to be able to score points.
You're doing a lot of like wanting and guarding of your expectations. You're like you're being very hyper aware of not getting hurt by like expectations.
I want this season to be watchable, and last year was imminently like very much not watchable. The wide receiver situation is interesting. I never thought Jamar Chase wasn't going to play. That would just be a weird thing for him to do, to be like, I'm not going to play this season. Mm-hmm. So, but I also think that he hasn't practiced all summer, like he's a great player. I think he'll be really good. But I don't know if he's going to get 150 yards or whatever it is. I think that in an ideal world, you've got Jonathan Jones with help on Jamar Chase. You've got Christian Gonzalez on T. Higgins. You just kind of try to weather the storm on the third cornerback with Marcus Jones. I think as far as like a coverage plan goes, that would be pretty smart. But I don't have a ton of belief that the Patriots are going to be able to get a ton of pressure after Joe Burrow. But like Joe Burrow coming off an injury, you just never really know what this is going to look like for the Bengals. Like you said, lightning could strike. I wouldn't say there's like zero chance for the Patriots to win this game. But it's very minimal, I would say.
I was looking. I'm not a huge master of the gambling apps here, so I was checking while you were talking. Trey Hendrickson had 17 and a half sacks last season. I was going to say, let's hammer the over, whatever it is. The over is 0.75 sacks. So if Trey Hendrickson, if he records more than half a sack, that's a winning bet. I feel like
it's 0.75. Oh,
which means if he gets a half, you're under.
Yeah.
I have to imagine he's going to get 3 sacks. it's such a concern. And you pointed out, like, when you are in a position where City Cell gets hurt and everyone's like, you can't afford that. That's where you're at. When Vidarian Lowe, who week 2 Miami last year was, I believe, the worst game I've ever seen a tackle play.
Yeah.
Is your starting left tackle and you don't even have him. That is what stands out to me in this game. And that's why I'm so down on it and so negative. I don't know how you fix that without the people, without the personnel.
I do think the Patriots will probably try to run the ball quite a bit in this game, for people hoping like a big game from, Jalen Polk or Tyquan Thornton. Probably not going to happen. Tyquan Thornton starting wide receiver, pretty odd, right?
Pretty, yeah. I with all due respect to like his added muscle, I've watched him run routes. It's bad. There was a pick last year where he was supposed to, it was like a 15-yard out or a 10-yard out, and he was still chugging his feet into the ground as the ball was flying to the sideline and a cornerback just intercepted it. Like, if you want to use Tyquan Thornton, he should be running go routes and go routes only. Maybe he can stop sometimes so that they can't just put a guy deep. But he has proven over years that the intricacies that make a great NFL wide receiver great, he does not have.
Yeah. But yeah, I would say overall, probably a big game for Ramondre Stevenson.
Well, let me ask you about him.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned depth. What if Ramondre Stevenson gets dinged up in a game? What's the running game going to look like?
I think Antonio Gibson would, he can't replicate Ramondre Stevenson, but he's probably like 75% or so. I think he would be the top guy. Like Antonio Gibson's like kind of sneaky big. I think he's listed at 6'2", 230. So I think some people thought it was a little bit odd they didn't keep like Kevin Harris as a 4th running back just to back up Stevenson. But I think that there's a belief that like that could just be Gibson. I don't think he would be as good. I think Stevenson is a good running back. But I don't know. One thing that struck me this week was that Jacoby Brissett at the end of his press conference on Wednesday was like, yeah, we have a plan on the offensive line. They believe in the plan. We got this plan. Curious to see what this plan is, or if that was just kind of like generic speak. But like, I wonder if they've got this strategy to mitigate the issues that they have there. Like maybe that means a rotation. Maybe that means more help. Maybe that means bringing in a 6th guy. I'm very curious to see. So he said, I feel very confident with this plan and how we're going to attack the defense, but also to help protect the quarterback and the running back, obviously. But he kept mentioning a plan.
That's the thing. I mean, with week 1, they've been game planning for months.
Yeah.
Which gets overrated sometimes. But then you do see random upsets in week 1. So maybe they've got the best plan of all time with this offensive line coach, Scott Peters.
Yep. Strike system.
Scott Peters, not Adam Peters, who was supposed to be the GM that everyone wanted, that we all heard about for about 5 minutes. We're like, you got to get Adam Peters. And then he spurned you.
It's true.
All right. Question for you, Doug, before we wrap up. This would be our overtime segment.
Okay.
And as we know in this podcast, we have made it clear that 2004 was the right year to graduate high school.
Absolutely.
And anyone that did high school wrong. That means the 20th reunion for me is this weekend.
Oh, wow.
I'm a little torn on whether to go. So I'm wondering, have you gone? Would you go? Should I go? What's the deal?
Wait, is it Saturday?
Yeah.
I don't know if we have anything scheduled for a 20th reunion. I've actually been thinking about this.
It would be like Thanksgiving usually.
But it's usually Thanksgiving, I think. So maybe it hasn't been, or like maybe I just didn't get the invite. But
mine was on Facebook, which is like for elderly people. So maybe
there is still a Facebook group from the 10th anniversary, the 10th reunion, whatever. I went to the 10th. I think I didn't go to the 5th. How many people do you stay in touch with from high school?
Like a half dozen.
I'd say go.
The Facebook group has 15 confirmed yeses, and I'm one of them. So I got the invite months ago. I was like, yeah, I'll go to that. And as time has come, there's only like a bigger crowd would be easier.
Tough. 15's tough. If it's like 100 or even like 50, 15, I don't know about 15.
Because then you get stuck. Like you're talking to someone you really don't know.
Yeah.
And you're like,
yeah. Would your wife go with you?
Have not broached it necessarily. That's a hard maybe, but that would be good because I would be able to talk to someone.
Yeah, but then like it looks a little weird if you're just hanging out with your wife the whole time.
I kind of like feeling awkward. I don't know about you.
15's rough. 15's rough. I don't know if I would go for 15.
Okay.
I would maybe. I mean, so that's tomorrow. It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow at 5 p.m. It's a pretty big deal.
I don't know. I might wait to
You're a
see if
no.
that
You're a
that
no.
confirmation goes up before I decide on that. But I wouldn't. I've thought about this. Like, if we do have a reunion, like I don't need to go. I don't really stay in touch with that many people. Like, there's a bunch of people I follow on like Instagram.
That's the thing. You're kind of
But,
in tune.
but
It's not like it used to be where, oh my God, I haven't seen you in 20 years. It's like I see you
yeah,
and your
like
kids,
yeah,
and I barely know you at all.
right. I haven't spoken to you in 20 years, but sometimes I will like DM, be like, you're in Disney World. That's cool, you know? But
Yeah.
I,
All right.
I don't know.
I might go.
Where is it?
It's
Oh, I don't
local.
want to. I don't want
You don't want
to
to blow.
dox you.
Yeah, we don't want to dox it because then it's the whole problem. But no, it's just at a bar. It's
Yeah.
not even like nothing's booked out. So we'll see.
Well, that's tough. But
I went to the 5-year, but that doesn't even count. You're like 22.
just out of college. Yeah.
Everyone got hammered. Like it wasn't a very formal thing. I feel like we're adults now. We're all middle aged.
10-year wasn't that fun, I'd say. That was just a random bar in Boston. But
it was in 2014.
That was a while ago. Second year I was covering the Patriots. All right. Well,
thank you, Doug. I appreciate your guidance and your honesty because
yeah, I was very helpful, I think, too. I gave you a really firm answer. I was really
no, everyone's like, just go. But there's more to it than that.
There is. The 15 people. If there's 15 people there,
I know three of you.
How big was your graduating class?
169. So
okay.
Small.
Yeah, pretty small. I think mine was around like 250, 300. So it does play a factor, I guess.
Well, I might go. And, the 5 o'clock works because you know what? 6:45 rolls around. I got to get home for dinner and bedtime.
Bedtime. Well, we'll find out on Sunday after the Patriots play the Bengals whether you went to your 20-year high school reunion or not. Don't wind up going to a 10-year high school reunion. You'd be there with people that you don't know. But yeah. All right.
And they'd be way younger. They'd say words I don't know what they mean. Young people scare me.
Skibbity? Is that one of those words?
That's maybe too young. That might be too young.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know what? I played in the old-time baseball game, which was a bunch of college players, and like me, Phil Perry got to play as like media bums, and it was all these young college kids. And so I have a cousin who's younger but older than college, and we'd golf, and he'd be like, "Oh, that's gas," and I was like, "Oh, that's a cool word. That's gas." So I adopted that one. Now you know what they say?
What?
Like they gave us cleats. It was like this. So Phil had amazing cleats, and this kid goes, "Oh, those are tough."
Tough,
which to me is like tough, like those suck, but like tough.
Yeah, I can see that.
Tough is cool now.
Tough being cool is like a throwback to like the 50s. I feel like it's like a street tough.
Rolling tough, yeah. So I would learn things from the young people, but anyways,
it does feel odd when no, this is dating ourselves too much, but yeah, when people throw out like terms, I'm like, I would never say that. Like someone says like dead ass about something.
That was another one.
Yeah, I feel awkward inside when someone says something like that. I feel like that's something that you can only say like in typed form, not in verbal form, But
you can't pick it up late in life.
No,
you just look like a poser.
Yeah, dead ass.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys on Sunday. We're going to try to record after the game. And thank you for listening. Thank you for being back. This will be fun to be doing this a couple times a week. Bye, Mike.